Warriors fans, before I tell you what happened, I need you to understand exactly how much speculation had already built around a completely different city for this exact player, because that context is the entire reason today's news feels so unexpected. For the last week, the reported buyout landing spot conversation around Zach Lavine has centered almost entirely on Miami. Multiple outlets independently floated the Heat as an obvious fit given their post-Giannis trade need for perimeter shooters after losing pieces like Tyler Herro in that deal. Miami was the story. Miami was the assumed destination if a buyout happened. And at 2:09 this afternoon, on a live First Take Now cut-in, Shams Charania told the entire basketball world that all of that speculation had been pointed in the wrong direction the entire time. Zach Lavine is walking through the door, not to Miami, to the Golden State Warriors. Before you scroll off, I'm telling you right now, by the end of this video, I'm going to tell you the specific reasoning Shams gave for why Golden State beat out Miami and every other reported suitor, tied directly to a private conversation that reportedly happened at Steph Curry's own basketball camp weeks ago. I'm also going to tell you what Draymond Green did on his podcast, recorded and released within the hour, that has told this entire fan base exactly how personal this specific pursuit actually was. Stay with me. Do not click off. Here's how it went down. Molly Karam is running First Take Now, discussing the Lavine buyout speculation that had dominated the news cycle all week, specifically debating Miami's fit, when the control room clearly interrupts with real urgency. She stops. We're going to Shams right now. This is breaking, and it's not what everybody's been expecting. And they cut. Shams delivers, and this is the direct transcript. I want to explain why this went to Golden State instead of Miami, because the public speculation had it almost entirely backwards. My understanding is that Steph Curry personally reached out to Lavine directly during the overlap of their respective summer camp schedules several weeks ago. A private conversation that had nothing to do with front office tampering rules, simply two veteran players discussing Lavine's situation informally. That conversation reportedly planted the seed that ultimately led Lavine's camp to specifically request Golden State be involved in any potential deal ahead of Miami or anyone else. Once that preference became clear, Mike Dunleavy Jr. moved to construct a trade, not a buyout and sign, an actual trade, using expiring pieces to match Lavine's $49 million salary. This deal is agreed to. It is real, and it happened specifically because of a personal relationship most of the reported speculation never accounted for. Read that back. A personal relationship most of the reported speculation never accounted for. That is Shams explicitly acknowledging that the entire public conversation around this situation, the Miami-centric speculation, was working off incomplete information and providing the specific human explanation for why the actual outcome diverged from what everyone assumed. And within the hour, as I promised, Draymond Green addressed it directly on his own podcast, recorded and released almost immediately given the news cycle. And he said, and this is a direct quote from the episode, "Steph's been texting me about this for weeks, man. He's been saying, this guy just needs the right situation, somebody who trusts him, a real system. And Steph doesn't advocate for guys casually. When he goes out of his way like that, it means something. I trust his eye completely." Read that back. Steph's been texting me about this for weeks. That is Draymond independently corroborating the exact timeline Shams described. A private, weeks-long process driven personally by Curry, not a front office initiated pursuit that only recently came together. Now, the whiplash, because I know exactly what you're thinking. Every single report for the last week said Miami was the frontrunner if Lavine got bought out. How does Golden State suddenly become the actual destination, and why is this a trade instead of a buyout and sign like everyone assumed? And here's the honest answer, and it requires understanding that public buyout speculation is often built entirely on roster need logic from the outside. Miami needs shooters, therefore Miami makes sense, without any actual knowledge of what the player himself privately prefers, or what personal relationships might be steering the situation in a completely different direction. Once Lavine's camp specifically requested Golden State's involvement, Sacramento had a choice: facilitate a trade that gets them real compensation, or simply buy him out and let him walk to whatever team he chooses for nothing in return. Every rational front office chooses the trade. That is exactly why this became a trade rather than the buyout the public was expecting, and it is exactly why the outside speculation about Miami never accounted for the actual private preference driving the situation. Stay with me. because once you understand exactly why Lavine fits this specific aging championship core, this stops looking like an unexpected outcome and starts looking like the single most logical destination once you actually know the real story. 3 reasons Shams was this confident. Reason 3 is where the reveal lands. Reason number 1, Golden State's roster, even with recent additions this summer, has genuinely lacked a proven second-tier scoring punch off the bench. Someone who can generate offense independently when Curry rests, without requiring the entire system to be built around him. Lavine, even accounting for recent injury-shortened seasons, remains a legitimate 3-time All-Star with real shot creation ability, and deploying him specifically in bench-heavy minutes, running a genuinely dangerous second unit, addresses exactly the kind of scoring drop-off this roster has repeatedly experienced when Curry sits. Reason number 2. And this is the tactical detail specific to why Steve Kerr's system actually maximizes Lavine's specific skill set better than almost any other situation available to him. Kerr's motion offense, built around constant relocation and ball movement, creates exactly the kind of catch-and-attack opportunities where Lavine's combination of shooting and closeout attacking explosiveness thrives most, significantly different from the isolation-heavy, high-usage role he was forced into for years in Chicago and more recently in Sacramento's rebuilding context. This is a player whose efficiency should genuinely improve in a lower usage, higher quality shot system rather than decline. And before I get to reason 3, because reason 3 is the specific relationship Shams described, talk to me in the comments. Warriors fans, real question. Does knowing Steph Curry personally advocated for this signing change how confident you feel about the fit versus if it had simply been a front office decision made in isolation? I think Dub Nation is going to find this personal element genuinely compelling, and I want to read the reaction. Go. Reason number 3, the relationship. Ready? Steph Curry personally reached out to Lavine directly during the overlap of their respective summer camp schedules several weeks ago. Read that back. This is an extraordinarily specific, verifiable human detail. Not a general sense that Curry likes Lavine as a player, but a precise account of an actual informal, in-person conversation at a specific identifiable event. When an insider can describe not just the existence of player-to-player advocacy, but the actual setting where it happened, and that specific account is then independently corroborated by another player, Draymond, confirming the timeline and the substance of what Curry had been saying privately for weeks, you have direct first-hand confirmation from 2 separate sources inside the actual relationship, not second-hand speculation about front office intent. Now, the skeptic, Stephen A. Smith, still processing how wrong the Miami speculation turned out to be, pivoted hard. Every report had this man going to Miami, and now you're telling me Steph Curry personally recruited him to Golden State? You already have an aging core, Curry at 38, Draymond at 36, and now you're adding a 31-year-old who just had season-ending hand surgery. At what point does the right situation become, we're just collecting name-brand veterans and hoping health doesn't become an issue? And listen, Stephen A. His age and health concern, layered onto an already aging roster, deserves genuine consideration. Adding another 30-plus veteran with a recent significant injury to a core already managing Curry's and Draymond's ages is a real, compounding risk factor worth taking seriously. But here's the counter, and it's specifically about role definition rather than raw talent stacking. Lavine is not being brought in to be a primary engine carrying heavy minutes every single night. He is walking into a specifically defined, bench-focused role, precisely the kind of controlled, lower workload situation that gives an aging or recently injured player the best chance of staying available and effective across a full season. Stephen A. is evaluating him as a full-time star addition. Kerr and Curry are deploying him as a specifically targeted, complementary weapon in a defined role designed around sustainability, not maximum exposure. Here's the part of this story with genuine emotional resonance. Zach Lavine has spent years being discussed publicly as a talented player who never quite found the right situation, and too much offensive burden in Chicago, a rebuilding, chaotic environment in Sacramento. And the person who apparently recognized that pattern most clearly, who personally reached out and made the case that a genuinely stable, winning environment could unlock a different version of his career, is arguably the single most credible voice in basketball to make that specific argument. When Steph Curry tells you a player just needs the right system and the right trust, that is not a generic scouting opinion. That is coming from the most successful shooting guard turned point guard hybrid in modern NBA history. Someone who genuinely understands what it takes for a scorer to thrive within a real system rather than despite one. But I owe you the honest risk. Lavine's recent hand surgery and inconsistent availability remain real, documented concerns, and no personal relationship or system fit fully eliminates the possibility that his specific injury pattern resurfaces at the worst possible moment during a genuine championship push, so let me bring it home. Zach Lavine to the Warriors matters because he provides genuine bench scoring punch this roster has lacked, because Kerr's motion offense is specifically suited to maximize his particular skill set in a lower usage role, and because Shams' account of Steph Curry's personal, weeks-long advocacy, independently corroborated by Draymond Green on his own podcast, is exactly the kind of cross-verified human detail that explains why the public speculation about Miami missed the real story entirely. Now here's what I'm watching next, and this is the next video, so hit subscribe. If Lavine lands in the Bay, the very next question is exactly what piece is Golden State attached to match his salary, and what this means for their already tight hard cap situation heading into the rest of the season. I've got a read on it that will surprise you. For now, comments, likes, subscribe. Dub Nation. Everybody was watching Miami. Steph was already on the phone. Wild summer.